Hey everybody, what's going on? Oh, it's me, John D. Villarreal. Voice is a little bit better, not 100% yet, but we're getting there. Okay, we're about 5-6 minutes out here, so I just wanted to let you know about that. There's a lot we're going to talk about today. We're going to be joined by Paul at Villarreal. Oh, polls are insane. I mean, it's like all this stuff is coming. Listen, we predicted. I didn't want to say we predicted it, but we kind of forecasted it a little bit here on the John D. Villarreal show. Big news, Washington Post poll. Big news with Dave Portnoy, right? And one of the Washington Post reporters. That's sort of interesting. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff in the news. We'll definitely take your comments to the extent that you have those. So I'm going to put this on pause for a second. Well, for myself anyway. I will be back if you're watching this later. You know, it's 4:01 right now. About 5 minutes. 4:06 Eastern time. We'll be ready to go. So we'll stay tuned for that. Okay, we're about 2 minutes out. Stay tuned. Let's check in on the audio.
Chance of scattered main.
Pretty close now, pretty close. Okay.
The law firm
Getting ready.
Tampa Bay families for 30 years.
Do for us.
Probably like 30 seconds here.
The views and opinions of Genesis Communications, its management, staff, or advertisers. Welcome to the John Villarreal Show. Now, here's John.
Hey, what's up, Tampa Bay Newstalk 1040 AM audience, live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. The voice is a little bit back, not fully back. We'll be working on a little bit of water here, a little bit of tea. Well, really like hot water and I guess honey and stuff like that. Listen, so much happening right now. And really the focus here on Newstalk 1040 AM in the greater Tampa Bay area. I'm talking Sarasota, Clearwater, downtown Tampa Bay, Wesley Chapel, Brandon, Plant City, Lakeland, all over the place. And of course, nationally and globally here on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. We're going to talk economy. We're going to talk politics. We're going to talk a bunch of stuff. I mean, and let's highlight it because I really need to talk about the economy right now. The economy is really getting, it's a little rough, a little crazy. I've been doing my research and I love to do the research, right? And there's people like, hey, we're going to have the soft landing. Is the Fed pausing? There's a lot of different things going on out there. And I can just tell you, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds and into business. I'm over right now. I'm doing some stuff over at Sarasota, Maserati of Sarasota, Alfa Romeo of Sarasota, Sarasota Subaru. And so I interact with customers, right, all the time. I see people looking for cars, different things like that and whatnot. And I have friends all over the place, right, and in different industries and stuff. And really, I think when you look at like housing and you look at automotive, that really gives you a pretty good pulse, not unlike trucking or even shipping, right, of what's going to happen. If people are shipping a lot of stuff, if they're trucking a lot of things, if people feel good and they're buying cars or they're buying houses, I mean, that kind of tells you a lot of stuff. And similarly, I like to listen to the realtors out there. I was talking to, my buddy Rodney over here at, one of the AC companies over here in Sarasota, and just what's going on in business and how's he feeling? Because again, commercial accounts, right? Real estate, that type of stuff, to get a pulse on what's up. And I've got a few theories on this. I've got a few things that I need to talk about on that. We'll hit that a little bit later. But I mean, and of course in automotive, everyone's looking for a deal. But I kind of have the sense, and this is just generic stuff. I'm not talking about anything specific or anything like that. But I have a sense out there that people are, times are a little tough. Something seems to have changed. People are really looking for deals now. You get me? And like 20, 30, 40% off. Like it just doesn't math out. It just doesn't make sense, in my opinion. So we'll come back to that with the economy stuff. And I did post something on LinkedIn with the Bill Gurley all-in speech, a VC from Benchmark. I think that got some pretty decent response there. We have to talk about Dave Portnoy. Dave Portnoy really, from Barstool Sports, aired out, okay, the Washington Post reporters. He was going to have this pizza thing. He's been doing a lot with restaurants, pandemic, stuff like that. Speaking of the Washington Post, OMG, oh my gosh, oh my goodness. We have a 10-point spread, a 10-point differential, okay, between Trump and Biden. That's their own poll. I mean, this is like shockwaves. A lot of stuff going on there. Senator Bob Menendez, what's up? Reports are gold bars at the house. Like, there's some crazy stuff going on out there. What's up with the, President Biden impeachment inquiry? Russell Brand. Wait a minute. A lot of things to talk about. Demonetized, allegedly, on YouTube. A lot to talk about on that one. And then there was a letter sent to Rumble. Rumble says, no, we're for free speech. We'll unpack that as much as we can. Listen, And then again, and I'll say this, a little bit of a personal bit. Now we're working three things through. We're trying to figure out stuff. Hopefully, we'll be able to get some sponsorship here. From Sarasota Subaru, Maserati Alfa Romeo of Sarasota. I've got some different ideas of like, and we'll see. There's no pressure or anything like that. But I mean, we love Newstalk 1040 AM, and we want to be. But we're trying to bring you guys like some very interesting stuff. We're trying to bring you something different here. Obviously, live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook as well. So I've got things in the works as usual. I'm doing like 50 things at once and trying to land all the plans and stuff like that. And I really feel like I just say that because I think that's also very analogous and a metaphor for what a lot of Americans are doing. People are having the side hustles now. They're the 2, 3. I've seen so many different things about, people. We talked about people living in their cars in Silicon Valley. We're talking about people working 2, 3 jobs just to make ends meet. Particularly, we talked about, some of the things with the dating market and how tough it is now. Like if you're trying to go it alone, like, hey, I don't need a partner or something like that. Oh my goodness. People are moving back in with their parents. Like it's rough out there. It's not a joke. Okay. So I think there's this social media reality and there's this Hollywood reality, although we have a writer strike and we have a UAW, union strike. Meanwhile, apparently we've got a debate happening between Governor Newsom and Governor DeSantis. # does anybody care? And I'm not trying to be a punk. Really, I'm not. All right. But I'm just saying that's like late November. This race is pretty much donezo. And no less than Governor Kemp over there in Georgia is like, oh, maybe Trump's not. Yeah, if it's between Trump and Biden, I'm going to vote for Trump. No doubt. Governor Noem's already endorsed President Trump. Like, dude, this primary is done. No, there's no votes yet, but I mean, it's unbelievable. Okay, a lot to talk about, as you can imagine, as you've already heard. Let's bring in Paul at Villarreal. Paul, I guess let's start with this Washington Post poll because I guess that kind of sets the table because it really brings home, in my opinion, everything I've been talking about, which is this primary race is over. It's going to be President Trump versus President Clinton. Now, President Biden. A lot of crazy speculation. I don't want to say crazy, but there's a lot of different speculation out there about, hey, maybe Newsom, maybe they're going to replace Joe. Maybe it's going to be Vice President Harris. Maybe it's going to be First Lady Michelle Obama. I mean, give me a sense of where you think this race is right now, because we're gonna get into it right now. Pretty soon it's going to be holiday season, and pretty soon it's voting time. And give me a sense of what you think. Is there going to be any movement on the Democratic side? I just don't see it. I think we're going to see President Trump versus President Biden. Tell me where you're at on that.
Yeah, well, first of all, hey, Newstalk 1040 audience, I hope you had a good week. I would say that I do not think that Biden is going to be replaced unless, he has a really tragic health incident. And that's because I think, where I'm at in Pennsylvania is absolutely critical state. And I don't think there's any other Democrat who could beat President Trump here. I just don't see it because Biden has certain appeal here. Of course, his family is from Northeast Pennsylvania, Scranton, before they moved to Delaware. He's got ties there, and his just kind of folksy whatever thing works here. You could not run Gavin Newsom here. You could not run Kamala Harris here. They wouldn't work. There's no way they would beat Trump because Trump has a deep level of support in this state. So only somebody like Biden is going to be able to challenge him and possibly defeat him. So I just don't see it. And as if Trump wins Pennsylvania, he's almost certainly going to win the election. So, and we can talk about that later, like some of the voting changes that are made here. No, I don't think it's going to happen. As far as the Washington Post poll, yeah, this was devastating. To the media. In fact, the Washington Post themselves was trying to downplay the poll, saying their own poll was an outlier because,
Crazy.
Obviously, I guess they didn't like what the result was.
Right.
What's really interesting, a couple of the numbers in there, Trump was up 15 points with young voters, which is unbelievable. Biden's number on the economy, 25% approval, 74% disapproval. That's crazy.
Can I pause you
And
just for a
as you
second
said-
here? Can I just pause you for a second? Because I want to lay this out, and I want you to do the rest because I want to make sure that we have the audience looking at the big picture here. This is what I've been saying, and what I'm saying right now. I'm getting a slight echo there, so just make sure that's not on your side, Paul. Reality is going to hit, and it's already hit. And what do I mean by that? We have a real estate market, in my opinion, and again, I'm not giving anybody financial advice, any kind of advice, whatever, whatsoever. It's my opinion. I'm a talk show host. Just talking to people out there and reading things and seeing reports. I mean, mortgage applications super low, right? I mean, real estate transactions super low. Well, but the prices in the inventory. Okay, that means nothing's happening. Nobody wants to sell. You don't want to go from a 2% mortgage to an 8% mortgage or whatever it is. I mean, the payment would explode. Most people are payment buyers out there, let alone the private equity that's coming in and buying stuff up. We talked about that, cash buyers, all that type of stuff. Okay, on the car market, you've had big companies, I'm not going to list here and put anyone on blast, that have basically, in the used car space that have gone out of business. Big, some significant ones. You have someone from one of the big automotive companies that says that basically half of the buyers out there are priced out. They're $400 a month or less buyers. They are priced out, okay, of this market right now. So you're having that issue. You also have the UAW strike because, there's various reasons, but one with this big push for EVs, okay, you're having a situation where 40% of their jobs or 40% of their pay are going to go. And so what I'm saying is all these things are cascading. Student loans are about to hit. And I said, full disclosure, my wife and I have significant amounts of student loans, stuff like that. And there's a lot of people that are saying it, and Paul's, and again, I'm not saying it, but there's a lot, I'll let Paul talk to that. There's a lot of chatter out there, a lot of people that are like, hey, that's pretty tough. They're not happy about it. And when those payments start having to hit again, inflation, I mean, the cost of eggs, orange juice, everything is all up. I mean, it's very serious. You have savings rates that have been depleted. What I'm saying is all these things are coming together, almost an economic perfect storm, if you will. And people are talking about soft landing. Dude, I mean, we're having situations where, like I said, like I was talking to my wife, people, it reminded me of COVID. Like people are coming out there and on the lot, and I'm not going to, and just generically whatever. And some people, and you always have people looking for a deal, whatever. But when you start talking to people that are 20, 30, percent off, whatever like that. And again, I'm talking generically, not anything specifically, right? And I'm talking to my friends in the industry and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, well, now where these cars were bought, they were bought up pretty high, right? And there's nowhere to go. You're already losing money on it. You might always be losing money on something. Similarly, same thing with houses, right? Same thing with houses. Same thing with a lot of these assets. What I'm saying is at some point somewhere, the music stops, musical chairs. Somebody has to take the L. And there's a lot of L's to go around is what I'm trying to say. This is what the picture I'm trying to paint here is pain. Potential pain could be really coming. And you have to have some kind of adjustment here because the affordability of everything is outrageous. It's not there. The math's not there. And I could go chart after chart after chart after chart, and stat after stat. I don't want to be that kind of show and bore people. I love stats and I love the analysis and I do, tremendous. I'm a super genius. I do with a lot of degrees and I do a tremendous amount of research, but I have to make it, we're doing a talk show here, right? And this is an NPR, nothing against NPR, right? So, and not to say that that's the haven for all the super intellectuals. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. And so when you put it all together, what's the bottom line? The bottom line is nobody knows for sure, right? I mean, all these things are forecasts and guesses and things could happen. And I could see different scenarios, but I think a lot of people are saying that there could be some serious pain going on. We're seeing it now. We're seeing companies go out of business right now. Right, you're seeing people move in with their parents right now, and that's before student loans and all these things, etc. So in that mix, when Paul's talking about these polls, and Paul's talking about Pennsylvania, and Paul's talking about these battleground, these swing states, if you will, these states that are going to decide things, these counties that are going to decide things. People are trying to make ends meet. The economy is a huge, huge deal. And now you're having a situation with this very progressive policies from this administration that are the bill, so to speak, colloquially speaking, is coming due. And there's no escape out of it. You have a record and the record's abysmal. when people are saying 70%, they're not happy with where the economy is going. Well, here's where it is. And you have another year plus of this, and I think it's only going to get worse. So in that sense, and I'll bring Paul right back in here, I think that it's going to be very hard I think that it'll be a close election. It could be a blowout for Trump, but I think that I think it's going to be really hard to stop Trump. B, politically. B, I think it's really going to be hard to kind of like, it's just like the Hunter Biden stuff or a lot of these stories. At a certain point, you just can't have, people writing for Washington Post and these liberal reporters just jumping off podcasts and hanging up and no evidence. What are you talking about? Miranda Devine had a good a tweet or a column on that. It's just, it's like, don't believe your lying eyes. I mean, like, dude, everyone's seeing what's going on out there. So, Paul, let's talk about these polls. I just want to set the table on that because the bottom line for me is reality's here. It's only, I think, foreseeably, in my opinion, potentially, it's only going to get worse. So we have another year for that. And yet, the Democrats are kind of, Biden's going to be the nominee, and you have a lot of Democrats, I think, that are really freaking out, metaphorically speaking, with this poll. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, look, we've heard there's been different columnists writing stuff like, hey, Joe Biden, you shouldn't run.
Right.
I mean, this is
David Ignatius,
big-time columnist. Yeah, so there's they're concerned about that. Just two more data points talking about what you said with the economy. Moody's, the financial service, said there's 5 million borrowers of student loans that are about to, start paying in October $275 a month on average. I mean, that's going to have a big effect, and those people are not going to be happy with President Biden. You could imagine.
100%. And sorry, Paul. I apologize, but I said because you reminded me of something. When you see these polls, and I'll be real quick. When you see these polls, and you're showing, workers, union people, younger people, students, different communities that are starting to break Republican. Right, like we saw with South Florida, like we saw with the border of Texas, stuff like that. Now you can start understanding why, because at the end of the day, people want someone who's going to represent them, and people want policies that are going to work for them. And people are seeing these policies, the working class people, the different, young and people in school with all this stuff. These policies aren't working for them, and they're breaking Republican. That's what I want to say. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, and just to speak on that a little bit more, a recent AP poll, not this Washington Post poll, but another poll, said that in the 2020 election, Joe Biden got 60% of the youth vote, I think like 18 to 29-year-olds. Right now, his approval rate overall in that poll was 40%, but with that age, with the young age group, it was 29%. So the youth is just moving away from him in droves and waiting until those student loans hit. As you know, because you guys have to deal with it, that's going to make a lot of people upset, especially since a bunch of people have been let off the hook. People are going to think, well, what about me? That's going to happen.
Well, no doubt, and not only that, but I mean, again, like, and again, I understand it, I get it. I mean, again, full disclosure, I signed up for loans, I fully expected to pay them, everything like that. At the same time, and absolutely right, and I've been doing that. I pay all my debts, etc. like that. In my opinion, and anyway, I want to make about it, but the point is look. You see Wall Street bailed out. You see car companies bailed out. You see Wall Street repeatedly bailed out. Big banks bailed out. Silicon Valley Bank, deposit bailed out. Wait a minute. What? You knew you had the FDIC. You were some of the smartest people in the world. You knew the FDIC insurance went up to $100,000. But I want all my. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's going to crash the economy. So those people got bailed out. And these students who have not, so you're talking about people with millions and millions of dollars, or companies, or VCs, or some of the smartest, most sophisticated people out there with connections, and yet students that have ran up $100,000 of debt on these liberal arts degrees and can't get a job in COVID are punked. They're ruined. Some of these people for life, and they're like, what about me? And so it's look, the bottom line is this. You need productivity. You need people working. People want fairness. People want representation. people, if you try, you can't shut down this economy. You have to we have to get back to fundamentals. We talked about that with the Bill Gurley speech, the all in, right? About, getting politics out of what I've been saying for a long time. Get politics out of tech and VC. It's absurd. That was a big problem I had. One of the big problems I had with the whole Miami tech movement is it was like being led or championed, or I don't know what you want to call it, kicked off from political people and left wing, academics and whatever. I don't know. It didn't make any sense to me. It didn't make any sense to me. And what Bill Gurley said in his speech is that basically regulation favors the incumbents. It favors the big companies. Silicon Valley and startups are all about disrupting that, providing a low cost, different alternative, and then building your way up in the higher values of the market. I mean, he said it's probably better than I can. And we're shutting down all of those things. So what I'm saying is, when it becomes if it becomes this political spoil system, and we're trying to divide up, rearrange the chairs on the Titanic, it's not going to work, dude. It's not going to work, for long for anybody. So I think that, we have to reevaluate all these things. I think, to me, and I don't know, I'm not ready to do any pronouncements here, any policy, but I'm just brainstorming, right? I mean, maybe you have some of the colleges and universities some of these universities have insane levels of endowment such that they don't even need to charge tuition anymore, whatever. Maybe they write off some of the stuff, because guess what? During the pandemic, you didn't have in-class learning or whatever like that. You had this, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's yes, you made a deal. Yes, you took out the loans. Great. But you were supposed to get a certain amount of services for that, a certain amount of thing. Like, in other words, if I don't know what it is, right? If I hire someone to mow my lawn, and now with pandemic, they can't do it, they have to do it virtually. Well, I'm not getting the same services, right? I'm getting something different. If I pay, like they have this thing every once in a while where it's like, oh yeah, have lunch with Warren Buffett, and these people bid on it, and it goes to charity, and it's it's like $1 million, whatever like that. Okay, well now if I don't get to actually physically have lunch, if I can't be face to face with Warren Buffett, but he calls me, that's a different deliverable, right? So in-person instruction and being able to connect with people and make friends. Because networking is, and again, different things. There's different deliverables, and so fair is fair, but it has to be fair for everybody, and we have to understand that we went through something, and we have to be able to get back to where we need to get back to, and that again goes back to the also other topics like in-person work, hybrid work, remote work, all these types of things. But what I'm saying is, if something's not sustainable, it's not sustainable. And right now, a lot of these things are unsustainable. In my opinion, housing prices, unsustainable, particularly when you have something like what's going on in San Francisco, where you've got businesses that are just moving out in from what I've seen from my reports. I'm not alleging anything, but it seems like there's some potential issues there. So much to talk about here, right? We just blew through that first segment real quick, and we're going to load it up again with topics for this next segment. Stay tuned. You're listening to John D. Villarreal Show here on Newstalk 1040 AM. Lots to talk about. I'll see you back in about 5 or 6 minutes right here on Newstalk 1040 AM. Hey, everybody, stay tuned. We're in about a 5-minute break here. We'll be back like 4:35, 4:36, something like that. So stay tuned. Be right back. Hey, everybody. We're going to be back here in about 2 minutes, 1 or 2 minutes. Hold on.
.com.
What's up, everybody? John D. Villarreal here, back on Newstalk 1040 a.m. We're talking about so many things. It's unbelievable. Hey, big poll, Washington Post, 10 points. President Trump is up. Oh, my goodness. What's happening when some of these reporters are going on these podcasts and they're being asked about Hunter Biden and given and faced with some potential questions concerning potential quote unquote. I mean, so a lot the line. Okay, I'm kind of fumbling around here. The line out there is there's no evidence. There's no evidence. And when people ask questions, some of these reporters are just hightailing off of because there's a lot of questions, in my opinion, off of these shows. Talking about the economy. We're talking about so many different things. I'm talking about what's going on in the automotive space. I'm talking to different business owners out there, in air conditioning and other different facets, and just how things are getting a little bit tough. And the bottom line is, how do we get through this together? Like, what kind of America do we want? What kind of America do we want, Paul? And in world, really, in that mix, part of that is, Russell Brand. And I want to be very careful how we address this. But let's put this on the table, and then we're going to bring back it all relates, in my opinion, okay? Just the facts, Paul, briefly, what's happening with the Russell Brand situation. And very quickly, if you want it on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, but I think YouTube, I can take comments and text live here. Also, I got to remind myself what the call-in numbers here on Newstalk 1040 are. You can also call in as well. We love that. So, yeah, it's also very, very good. So, Paul, Russell Brand, it's a very scary situation. Yeah, hold on. I'll say this. I have no idea what the facts are whatsoever. I've been around some people that are famous. I've been around some big time sports people. I've heard of things. We've all read news reports. I don't know anything, but nothing would surprise me on any, but the way that, and we love YouTube, don't get me wrong, and we're on YouTube live right now, but let's lay out what the facts are here, Paul. I'll turn it over to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the facts are this. Apparently, there are allegations from Russell Brand's past. I think these are like 10 years or more in the past. And, alleging bad behavior, basically. I'll just keep it at that. And so this just started.
Sounds terrible.
Out.
Sounds terrible to me from what I was able to glean. And I just, brushed over, casually saw a headline here and there. So go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, it sounds awful. I mean, again, we're not in favor of anything like that. We don't know what happened, but these are the allegations. So these things come out. As it comes out, now again, he hasn't so far been charged with anything. These are just, these are allegations. I think a documentary was done, and some people spoke on that, but they had anonymity, this type of a thing. This was done in the UK, I believe. Now, YouTube, I don't know if they were asked to do this or if they decided this on their own. Basically, once the allegations came out, they demonetized his channel, which is, as we know, it's a very important thing for YouTube creators. It's basically, that's how people make their money that are full-time YouTubers, essentially.
And Russell has like millions and millions of subscribers. If I had to guess, like 5-6 million subscribers. His stuff gets millions of views. I think that's one of his big things right now. On YouTube and on Rumble as well. And so that's a big deal for him, right? And here's the thing, like you said, no, not arrested, no charges, long time ago, not convicted of anything. And we might talk about Senator Menendez later is Senator Menendez allowed to be on YouTube? What about all the people that did the Russia hoax? And again, this isn't about whataboutism or anything, but it's like, yes, YouTube's a private company, but and I'm not, and we'll be very careful here because we're live on YouTube. And again, we're not, it's just, here's the thing. And then here's the thing. Let's pause the YouTube thing. Then a letter, I think, was sent from, and this is not unlike the Dave Portnoy stuff, in my opinion. A letter was sent from, I guess, of someone in the British Parliament, maybe even from the Conservative Party, to Rumble saying, hey, YouTube took him off and demonetized him. What do you want to do? And Rumble kind of pushed back, like, look, we're for free speech and everything like that. It's like, where are we at right now? We're basically, it's trial by media. How many stories? And we can go on down the list. How many stories have we seen that it appeared one way immediately, then it became something different? And to his credit, the Sean Hannity, right? Goes all the way back, because I think he did talk radio in Atlanta, to the Richard Jewell case with the Atlanta Olympics. And everyone thought it was Richard Jewell, and then he did it. No, he didn't. But in the media, at first, And we've seen this on and on again. That's why we have a justice system. So now you have a situation where these stories came out, and I have no idea about the veracity of these stories, but these stories came out, and immediately, or very quickly, Russell Brand's demonetized. Now, Russell Brand has been saying some things that maybe the powers that be, people in governments, not so happy about. Right? So go ahead, Paul. I'll zip it. I just want to frame that real quick for the audience. Go ahead.
Yeah. Now, just so people know, and I'm sure a lot of your audience does know, Rumble is basically a alternative to YouTube. And Rumble's headquarters are located down near you guys, so I'm sure many people are familiar with that. They also have monetization. So, okay, we've got Russell Brand's YouTube monetization. Maybe we can get his Rumble monetization as well. And what this essentially becomes is you're trying to silence people by taking away their ability to make a living by talking. So you're not totally silencing them, but you're kind of effectively silencing them. And that's what people are concerned about, particularly if somebody has not actually been through an actual trial, as John is saying there. And I thought the example of Menendez is a very good one and pertinent. So what happened was the UK Parliament, somebody from the UK Parliament did send a letter to Rumble. Rumble's like, no, we're for free speech. There hasn't been a trial. We can't, we don't know. We don't want to make a decision based on anything yet. What happened after that was an independent organization, and I don't know which one it was because I'm not sure if anybody's taken credit for this yet. Some independent organization, and there's a number of these organizations, went to individual sponsors. They basically went to Russell Brand's Rumble channel, watched his stuff, saw what ads were placed around his content, and then they went to individual advertisers and said, hey, do you know that your advertisements are running with Russell Brand? Do you approve of that, or do you not approve of that? And got several advertisers to pull their stuff from, I think, Rumble entirely. So not just Russell Brand stuff, but the whole channel. Which is, it's like now you're punishing people that have nothing to do with Russell Brand. I mean, now you're punishing the whole company. So there's a lot of concern about this. There's a lot of concern. We know the cancel culture. People are being, I don't know, held accountable, if you want to just call it that, for stuff decades in the past. Now, I'm not saying Russell Brand. I'm talking about somebody saying something. Maybe they said something they regret from 20 years ago. And there's no way to overcome it. It's like if you get canceled, that's it. Well, some people can make a comeback, but other people are not given the opportunity to make a comeback, or they're not allowed to earn a living doing this. So that's where it's at. And it's something it's concerning to a lot of people. And as John said, Russell Brand has been someone who's kind of speaking out against the powers that be, so to speak. He's questioned things about different large organizations and powerful entities. And, there are people that feel like, well, why is this coming out now? Why are you picking on him? Is it because of what he's saying and who he's talking about? So that's kind of the setup here.
And I want to be very careful here. And again, I'm just trying, it's just whatever, I'm live right here. So it's whatever comes to mind. It's nothing, it's not any specific focus or anything like that by any stretch. But I mean, there's people on the left, and of course this was actually done by President Trump, but people on the left have been talking about criminal justice reform for a long time, and maybe we should be able to, if you've served your time, you should be able to vote, and these are all very important issues, and absolutely, we have more people incarcerated in America percentage-wise, and I went to law school at Berkeley, and there's just different talks over there, and different clinics and different things like that. So wait a minute, so like if we're using the same logic with this cancel culture, if you've ever been convicted of anything or any kind of violent, should you never be able to go on YouTube after that? Never go on Rumble? Never be able to monetize everything? Like where does it stop? You realize that there's people that are maybe professional athletes, or they're famous in some way, that may have maybe killed someone, and they're making money, and they have, maybe they have TikToks or Instagrams or YouTubes or Facebook. I mean, where does it end? Like, I mean, what is the real objection here? Now, again, we did learn with the Me Too movement and different things. I mean, and of course, I mean, this is always, they always talked about, the Hollywood casting couch and stuff like that. And again, nothing surprises me with that. We learned of some very horrific things that were done to people and women and stuff like that. And I'm glad that those things have been aired out, and people do need to be held accountable and everything like that. We are not glossing over any of that. Okay. And I'm not saying that I don't want to make this a left-right thing, and this isn't about anything like that or whatnot. All this is what is our, again, this goes back to what kind of country do we want to live in? Like, do we believe that you're innocent until proven guilty? Do we believe in due process? Do we believe in a justice system? Do we believe that, that you should still be able to, whatever that process is going to be is whatever that process is going to be, but you should be able to make a living and all that. And listen, there's different arguments like, okay, well, you have a right to due process, but you don't have a right to be famous, or YouTube's a private company. And again, it gets back to, it comes back to very similar themes of, as we saw in the Twitter files and then their Facebook files. I mean, are these kind of public utilities public squares, or are they private companies? Yes, there is some competition now, but I mean, you're talking about massive platforms that if you have any level of fame that you need to be on these massive, it's hard to not be, like when President Trump's hard to not be on Twitter. It's hard to not be on YouTube. It's hard to not be on Facebook and so forth. And let's see at least a little snippet of what Rumble did say about this. And I think it's illuminating. And I'm just trying to be very careful here. This is a tough subject. But what I don't like is the immediate reaction and the almost what feels like, and I'm not alleging anything, and again, we love YouTube, trial by media or something like that. And this is a Rumble, and this is quote Rumble's response to UK Parliament's letter to our CEO Chris Pavlovski. Today we received an extremely disturbing letter from a committee chair in the UK Parliament. While Rumble obviously deplores sexual assault, et cetera, all these different things, it is vital to note that the allegations against Russell Brand have nothing to do with his content, on Rumble's platform. And then it goes on and say, YouTube announced, based solely on these media accusations, it was barring Mr. Brand from monetizing his video content. Rumble stands for very different values. We have devoted ourselves to the vital cause of defending a free internet, meaning internet where no one arbitrarily dictates which ideas can or cannot be heard, or which citizens may or may not be entitled to a platform. And it goes on, and at the end, it says, although it may be politically and socially easier for Rumble to join a cancel culture mob, doing so would be a violation of our company's values and mission. We emphatically reject the UK Parliament's demand, unquote. So, Paul, powerful stuff out there. And listen, it's not the only thing happening, right? Because we also are talking about what's going on. I mean, let's talk about the Dave Portnoy situation. Dave Portnoy, it's always a similar thing. Let's go after the advertisers. Let's do this. We've seen this happen to Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity. I mean, on down the line, the left seems to be able to do this with some frequency. And Dave Portnoy, I think, had some pizza event coming up. I didn't follow it super closely, but apparently the Washington Post was out there asking some questions of some of the advertisers, and Dave Portnoy was able to get one of these people, one of the reporters called her up and made a video on it. And I think that was very, very interesting. Can you detail a little bit of that?
Yeah, so Dave Portnoy, as many people know, is the founder of Barstool Sports, which has been a really successful kind of sports, male-focused things, et cetera. He's gotten, he's been really successful. I think he's branched off in a number of different things, but again, very successful, very influential for younger people. And, so yeah, he's had a big influence. The event that he was going to go to is he has some pizza rating thing, a pizza rating. I wouldn't call it a contest. It's just like he rates different pizzas. Like it's called like one bite pizza. He takes one bite of it and then he rates how good the pizza is. Well, apparently this is this has a large influence on people and the pizzas that they like. So what was going to happen was, I believe he was going to New York City and he was going to go and visit or participate in this type of a meeting of different pizzerias, and he was probably going to either do this contest or just kind of reinforce what he already said, etc. So the pizzerias were very welcoming to him. They wanted him to come because they know he can help their business. What the Washington Post did was apparently they emailed these pizzerias and we're like, hey, we heard that you're going to host Dave Portnoy, and he said this, and he's done this, and, what do you think about that? Kind of like, are you sure you want to do this type of a thing? And then what ended up happening was one of the pizzerias got this email, and they sent it to Portnoy himself. So then he knew what was happening. And then he recognized that, okay, the Washington Post is going to write a story about me to make me look bad, and what they're first trying to do is go to the people first, get them to say something negative, and then come back to me with, hey, do you know what they said? Or they're dropping out of the event. Is that okay? So this is, and the reporter in question here is named Emily Heil. So what Portnoy did, which is so intelligent, was he called up Emily Heil and said, hey, I heard you're doing a story about me. And she's like, who is this? I'm like, oh, this is the guy you're writing the story about. And she found out it was whatever. Portnoy recorded the entire call. So he has all of this on tape. And basically saying, like, just kind of tracked her, like, what are you doing? Why are you going to the pizzerias instead of talking to me? I thought that the article was about me. He just kind of went logically through all of these things and just showed definitely looked like an attempt to make him look bad, and maybe to get some of these different groups or sponsors to leave him. And there's a lot of that happening right now, and it kind of goes to the question of, are we still for free speech? Are we still allowing people to do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's really crazy, Paul. There's no doubt about it. I mean, and I'm just reading it, and I was just reading here real quickly while you're talking, and I just wanted to make sure I've got this right. I mean, there's just this is an evolving situation. The Dave Portnoy thing, Dave Portnoy really, well, look, what I think, if you take all these things together, and Russia collusion, hoax, and the Hunter Biden laptop story, and whatever happened to those 51 intelligence people that signed off that looked like a potentially whatever they said there about the Hunter Biden laptop. I mean, all these things have been. I mean, so many of these things have turned out to be a little bit different, right? And when you put it together, I mean, some of these things, it just feels like, again, no allegation that maybe there's some political motivations here. A political op. It's just very strange, like the Brett Kavanaugh thing, right? With Blasey Ford, I mean, and different people, like all you see the same thing with President Trump. Like at certain political times or certain windows, there's 2, 5, 10, all these these different allegations pop up, and there's always multiple allegations, just like we have multiple different proceedings, legal proceedings against Trump. And then magically, after nomination hearings or after elections, things just seem to go away. What happened? It's so weird, right? It's so weird. And I'm not alleging anything on anything. I'm just a talk show host observing something, but it's kind of strange, right? And so then you have a situation here, and I don't know how much this plays into it or not. This is from the Independent in UK right here, and this is just very recently. This is 1 hour ago by Alex Ross, okay? And it just says, and I think that there's different parts of this. Maybe there's a UK part, and I mean the famous stars they travel around everything. But there's maybe a Hollywood LA part. 3 hours ago, Los Angeles Police Department issued a statement. Okay, quote, a spokesperson said, "We have received no complaints." This is Russell Brand. We've received no complaints and opened no investigations. Let me read that again. We've received no complaints and opened no investigations. That's the LA Police Department. If there is a victim who comes forward and a crime has been committed, we would investigate, unquote. Now, who knows? That's one deceased, whatever, but ostensibly Russell Brand was in Hollywood or doing different things. I don't know where he was. I don't keep track of Russell Brand. You know what I mean? Like I haven't watched, that many of his movies or whatever. I mean, I'm sure there's maybe the UK part of it. I don't know, but you start asking questions that, all of a sudden a paper comes out and there's 4 accusations and we're demonetized and members of parliament are writing letters to Rumble. It's kind of weird. It feels kind of weird, Paul. Am I right or am I wrong here? Paul, did we lose you?
It does. It does feel weird. It feels strange, and a lot of people are picking up on that. I will say this, right before we came on air. Now, you mentioned the Los Angeles Police Department. I saw a report that the British police are now investigating Russell Brand. So
Sure.
That's a separate thing. But they didn't say anything, whatever. But maybe somebody made a complaint over there. I don't know. But as you said, Russell Brand spent a lot of time in Hollywood. I think that's pretty clear. So we just have to see how it plays out. And again, we're not defending anything. And if something happened, hopefully, justice will be made. But if all you have to do is accuse somebody of something, then there is no justice system because anybody can be accused at any time. And that's not I don't think that's how we want to run things. As you said, Christine Blasey Ford and Kavanaugh, why did it come out when he was nominated? Why didn't it come out before then? That's I think some of the questions that people are asking. And look, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's an
again,
question.
we right, and again, we are all for truth, justice, everything like that, and we don't know. We have no idea about the facts of this case, and we want justice to prevail, and we definitely, some of these allegations sound very shocking, no doubt about it. But I think that we either have a fair process and due process or we don't. We either have free speech or we don't. We either have a free internet or we don't. And on and on and on, right? And the more you inject politics and cancel culture and all these types of things and social credit scores, whatever it is, into these things, then I think it becomes very, very dangerous. And obviously, and similarly, if people know that they can railroad, a boycott with advertisers and get their way that way, and that can be effective, or they can cancel someone and that's effective, or they can use, these things, then I'm sure you'll have, it wouldn't surprise me if there's some percentage, if people use that at some point somewhere, potentially hypothetically as a political weapon or whatever. So there's a lot of things going on here. I mean, it's a crazy world. And we're trying to make sense of it here on the John D. Villarreal Show on Newstalk 1040 AM. We're going to talk about all this and more. Economy, politics, everything. Taking your feedback as well. On the other end is the 5 o'clock hour. Stay tuned. Listen to John D. Villarreal Show here on Newstalk 1040 AM. We'll be right back in about 5-6 minutes.
Newstalk 1040.
Getting ready to come back on the air.
Attorneys.
Okay, what's up? Newstalk 1040 AM audience. It's me, John D. Villarreal, joined by Paula Villarreal. Man, we're talking about so many different things. I mean, we're talking about the huge 10-point gap that President Trump has, the lead over President Biden. We're talking about economy. We're talking about Dave Portnoy, right? Just crushing, in my opinion, I don't know what you want to call it, PR-wise, the Washington Post, and just really, I think, exposing some interesting approaches to doing an article there, and the whole pizza thing. And we're talking about Russell Brand. And I want to make this very, very clear. We're not making any judgments whatsoever. I have no idea what the facts are. We believe in truth, justice, freedom, liberty, opportunity for everybody, all that type of stuff. We're not defending anybody, right? I just want the truth to come out. The only thing I'm defending is due process and fairness for everybody, right? I'm defending due process and fairness for everybody. That's all that I'm saying right here. And it just seems weird when you have this cancel culture and you have people from Parliament, writing, to demonetize people. Now, listen, I mean, Russell he's got a big audience and he's a big name. I mean, I don't know. Again, I'm not saying anything. I'm sure a lot of crazy stuff goes on in Hollywood. A lot of crazy stuff goes on in different places. I don't know. I really don't know. I think that, Russell for a while was like a comedian that was a self-styled, like kind of rocker comedian, a star comedian. I don't know, dude. I really don't. I don't know. I'm not defending anybody, but I'm defending a due process and a proper system and stuff like that. And I think that's what I want to say about that. Now let's talk about. We may come back to that. Paul, do you have any final thoughts on that at all?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, look, we don't want people to get canceled based on accusations. I think that's what it is.
Right. You have to have your, that's it's like, should you, if someone accuses you of something, should you get fired from your job like immediately before you even like meet with investigators or have your day in court or maybe there's, who knows, right? I mean, here TMZ, quote, Brand has repeatedly and vehemently denied all the claims against him thus far. I mean, so I don't know. I have no idea. And then dash, and it's too early to tell whether any of these investigations will result in charges. We don't even have any charges. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, dude. I think that, yeah. So we'll see. I mean, and quite frankly, like, if I wasn't doing the show, this is not something I'd want to even like. This isn't. I'm interested in fairness as an issue and stuff like that, but I don't really like. Honestly, I really don't want to say too much. But this isn't like a normal story that I would really be. That I'm not someone that like follows tons of celebrity news or whatever. Like that's not where I'm at and stuff like that. And so, but like Paul says, Russell has gotten more into politics recently, and he's gotten a bigger and bigger channel and stuff like that. And he's been talking about, big pharma and big agriculture and big government and big, and big energy and all that type of stuff. And I think, he had a little one-on-one with John Howman on Bill Maher's show. And I thought he crushed Bill, Howman there. I mean, so it wouldn't surprise me if Russell kind of like stepped on some toes, if some people in the political realm. And listen, we know there's a lot of money involved, a lot of power involved. I think this election's a big deal. So I don't know. I don't know. And again, I really don't know. So we are making zero judgments about this at all. Not defending anybody, just defending due process and just defending fairness. That's it. That's all we're saying. So, and I think that's a decent place to leave it. Let's move on from there. So, Paul, give me a sense of this election and where we're at now. I know you follow some of the Trump stuff, and you do a lot on Twitter and stuff like that. Trump had some, he's been doing some stuff out there. I guess we're talking now about DeSantis versus Newsom on the in November. I don't know. We have a second Fox Business GOP debate coming up this week. I mean, give me, break it down. Where are we at with the state of this race right now? I think it's pretty much over, dude. I think it's been over. I think it's done. But give us the latest.
Yeah, the latest is, as you said, President Trump spoke today in South Carolina. I just completed his speech, 2 hours ago, an hour ago. He had two speeches last week in Iowa, so he's kind of making the circuit of the early voting states, Iowa, South Carolina, New Hampshire, those states. He's working hard. What he's going to do on Wednesday is go and give a speech in Detroit, and he's trying to piggyback off of the UAW strike that you mentioned earlier in the show. And I guess that the White House was so concerned that Trump was going to go there and talk to the union workers that they scheduled Biden to go tomorrow so that he can go ahead of Trump being there. So that just shows you that what Trump is doing is having an effect. I think it's smart, and not only is Trump going there on Wednesday, he's doing it at the same time as the GOP debate. So this is the second debate in a row that he's counter-programming. The first debate, of course, he did the interview with Tucker Carlson, and that interview came out like 5 minutes before the debate started, and everybody watched the interview, essentially. I'm sure a lot of people will be watching his speech as opposed to the debate. He said today at the speech that the debate was the lowest rated debate ever. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what he claimed, and I do know that the ratings weren't particularly good for it. So that's what he's up to. There's been a lot of discussion about who he might choose as a vice president. We've talked about this some. Rolling Stone had an article about 2 weeks ago where they said that Carrie Lake and Marjorie Taylor Greene were kind of like butting heads, each of them trying to get into that role or in the mix for that role. But the article said that essentially probably neither one of them are going to end up being the vice presidential nominee for Trump. And it came out a few days ago that Carrie Lake looks like or is going to announce a Senate run in Arizona within the next month. Of course, Carrie Lake narrowly lost Arizona governor race in 2022. So that would take her out of the mix for the vice presidential thing. I cannot see President Trump picking Marjorie Taylor Greene as a vice presidential nominee. I just don't see that happening. I don't think that's going to happen. So then you kind of come down to Kristi Noem, Governor Noem, maybe Governor Haley, and somebody they also mentioned in that article, Governor Sanders, Sarah Huckabee Sanders of Arkansas. Maybe. I mean, I don't know who it's going to be. I think there's plenty of people who like Noem. There's also a lot of people who like Congressman Byron Donalds from down your way. We just have to see. I mean, I don't think that the campaign knows yet. So we're just going to see. You did mention the debate between DeSantis and Governor Newsom. It came out today that Fox has scheduled that. That is going to be November 30th in Georgia. And I mean, it doesn't hurt anything.
Right.
But you kind of have to say, well, why are you doing it? I mean, what's the point of it,
Especially by that time, I mean, it's already pretty much done. I mean, it's not like Governor DeSantis is going up in the polls, so I don't know. I mean, it's pretty crazy. I don't see it. But yeah, it's fine, I guess. We'll see. 1 second here. So I don't know. I mean, I tell you, the more I think about it, the more it's just like, I don't know. I want to come back to the Trump thing, but this whole Russell and Brian thing, it's just really, it's really disturbing. Again, who knows? You've got Kathy Griffin and other people saying that, it looks like, she's got some negative things to say about Russell Brand. And again, dude, I'm not alleged. I have zero idea. Nothing would surprise me. Am I surprised about bad behavior from potentially or really vile behavior, right, if you will, from potentially, again, I'm not alleging anything on anyone. I'm just saying just generally from celebrities of Hollywood. I mean, look, I've had, how do I want to say this? No, I think we've seen this in different spheres, right? Whether it's in, with athletes, anyone's fame, anytime you have, fame, money, any kind of power, this and that, whatever, people can act crazy, right? In different ways and stuff like that. At the same time, and again, Kevin Spacey, that looked just terrible. And yet I think, Paul, remind me, I could be wrong. Again, not something I follow very closely. I think he got acquitted. So it's just, is that right, Paul? Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, I believe that's correct, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like, and again, Blasey Ford, think about what was said on the Senate hearings there about Justice Kavanaugh. It's just so hard to know when you start going back 10, 20 years, 30. I'm not, but at the same time, like Kathy Griffin maybe saying, a headline here, quote, Kathy Griffin, quote unquote, excited that, quote unquote, sleazebag Russell Brand accusations were exposed, quote unquote, it has taken forever. And sometimes that's look at, again, look at Me Too, look at how those kids, there's a lot of stuff that gets swept under the rug. There's a lot of bad stuff out there. And I think that, and you can see the sides, this side and that side, and you can see how it breaks down. The liberals are saying this and the conservatives are saying this. And I think that's unfortunate. What we have to do, and it's not easy, is again, have an adherence to due process, have an adherence to some kind of fairness, particularly when it relates to people's livelihoods, reputations, criminal justice system, all this types of stuff. And this is exactly what President Trump is saying. We'll bring it right back to that. And Hannity and some others. Two-tier justice. Look at what Hunter Biden versus, now we've got Senator Menendez versus President Trump versus, Ken Paxton. Ken Paxton, all that. We could talk about Ken Paxton out there, Attorney General from Texas. We don't want two tiers of justice. We don't want trial by media. We don't want to weaponize justice system. I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying hypothetically. And that's what's so troubling. And then you also have to ask, why now? Well, maybe Russell has big enough of a platform. Maybe there's a reason for reporters to get. I don't know. I do not know the answer to this. And honestly, I didn't even want to talk about this story. And I've talked about it more than I wanted to. But I think it's important to be careful and important to be precise. And in fact, like, I gotta be super careful. It's funny because, there's people that I would consider pretty left-wing, pretty woke, and all of a sudden, is Kathy Griffin saying, what is she saying about some of the, reports from employees about Ellen DeGeneres? Is she saying this about Ellen DeGeneres? There's discussion about, people want to say stuff about all kinds of celebrities. And I just find that it just becomes this left-right thing. It becomes very, very trite. No one's immune from someone accusing them of something, right? but an accusation is different than actual proof is different than actual conviction and whatnot. Now, I don't know. I have no idea where this is going to go, but I think the discussion that's important is when emotions run high, when people are political or politics are involved or whatever it is, or celebrities or who knows, how do we try to have adherence to a fair process and a due process? And that's what's important, right? And that goes back to the same things. What kind of country do we want to live in? What kind of world do we want to live in? Do we want to be in a situation where President Trump has 4 different cases against him, maybe more? Then we had the defamation case, and Hunter Biden, statute of limitations are running. Senator Menendez has gold bars in the House. I mean, somehow senators and Congress people have multiple houses, have all kinds of great stock picks. Like, it's crazy stuff going on here, Paul. You understand what I'm saying? I think that, it's going to be very interesting to see Portnoy. Here's the thing. Put Russell Brand. That's the last thing I'm going to talk about Russell Brand. The bottom line is, I have no idea what's going on. I want justice to prevail. Nothing would surprise me, but I do think we need a due process. The due process applies to everybody. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about it, and we'll see. Now let's put him out of this. Ken Paxton, right? Dave Portnoy, Donald Trump, and there's more. And it's like, dude, I think this just adds fuel to the fire for President Trump. We got about 7 minutes here for campaign 2024 when it comes to the dual justice system, Hunter Biden, everything like that. I mean, and listen, no less than Attorney General Merrick Garland. It was up in Capitol Hill last week, and I don't think that was a good look for Attorney General Garland. No disrespect, but I mean, there's some tough questioning there, Paul. Do you understand what I'm saying here? That people are like, wait a minute. Something is, it feels like the political momentum is with Donald Trump and the Republicans on this issue. Would you agree?
I totally agree. I think that is correct. And going back to Attorney General Garland, yeah, people were not really happy or satisfied, I guess would be the right word, with his the answers that he gave to some of the questions. In fact, so much so that some commentators and I think some Congress people were saying, look, we've got to impeach him because we're not going to get answers. We're not going to get real information here unless we move on this. And it does look like a 2-tier justice system. How are these decisions being made? Why does it look like Hunter Biden was kind of let off the hook, apparently, but Trump is being targeted? So, yeah, I think that is building up. I think there's a building kind of concern and growing, swelling interest in that and momentum, I guess you could say. Coming back to Ken Paxton, who is Attorney General of Texas. Now, of course, he was impeached. The reason he was impeached, or the sequence of events in which he was impeached, he called out the Speaker of the Texas House, whose name is Dade Phelan. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. I think that's right, or Phelan, who is a Republican. So this is 2 Republicans, but they're kind of on different sides of the Republican fence. Ken Paxton is a Trump guy. Dade Phelan is more of a kind of bushy, rhino, whatever you want to call it, guy. There's I don't know how to say this. There's a video out of Dade Phelan. I don't remember. It's from several months ago. And people were saying he's up there, he's doing his speaker duties, he has a gavel, and some people were saying it looked like he was under the influence. I'll just put it like that. I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know him. I don't know anything. But Ken Paxton, like the next day, came out and said, hey, this is unacceptable, Dade Phelan. You should step down. And not soon after that happened, then the impeachment stuff came again, Ken Paxton. So you got allegations of, was this political targeting or retribution or whatever? As we know, Ken Paxton was cleared on all impeachment charges. He was impeached. Everything was he was acquitted on all counts. And now he is saying again, I believe, that he thinks that Dade Phelan should step down. And there's a group called the Republican Party of Texas. It's not, I don't know if it's the official party of Texas, but it's Republican Party of Texas. They just had a meeting, 60 members that vote, and they voted 58-2 that Dade Phelan should step down as Speaker of the House. So a lot of Republicans are moving now. And again, it is shifting the momentum. Coming more towards the people, the momentum is shifting towards the people who seem to be getting maybe unfairly persecuted or so forth. So yeah, that is happening.
It's really crazy, right? And so, you know, again, people were tired of the cancel cultures. People got tired of, you know, I mean, listen, from the, you know, before it's been a rough 3-4 years. That's what I'm saying. Like, it all goes back to the same thing. This economy is no joke. And, you know, people are tired of like, oh, I support this, and you know, all this virtue signaling, cancel culture, everything like that. People, we've seen, you know, major, big time people, doctors, immunologists, like losing their funding, careers. We've seen gyms shut down. We've seen all kinds of things happening. This is serious stuff, dude. And at the same time, like, I remember I saw this thing in Canada or something, I don't know where, like, and listen, I don't know any specific case, and I'm not, I mean, but just like police going into churches and stuff. It wasn't that long ago where we had like the whole scoreboards things going on with Governor Youngkin and everything. I mean, this is all real, dude. This is real. Like, I'm not trying to be gloom and doom or anything like that, but I'm just trying to say, like, people are so tired of the hyper partisanship. People are so tired of, if I say the wrong thing, my life is over and I'm canceled. Listen, I make mistakes all the time. I'm live on the air, you know, live in front. I mean, I make mistakes constantly. Like, we have to allow each other. I mean, elevate yourself. Try to get to a better level. Try to learn always, of course, but we have to allow ourselves to be human beings, for goodness sakes. I mean, it's crazy, right? I mean, and nobody's perfect. People make mistakes. But how are we going to be able to discuss issues without canceling people? How can we discuss issues and even debate it strongly in a constitutional republic fashion without the other side throwing the other side in jail or bankrupt them through lawfare or suits, or like this is not where people want to be. Like, it's a little crazy, right? And so, and you, in that mix, you add in a very, very tough economy. And I think this sets up a very interesting year next year. There's a lot to talk about. We're going to try to tee it up in that final segment. Stay right here. You're listening to the John D. Villarreal Show here on Newstalk 1040 AM. So much going on, and we're trying to plug you into that world and help you along with it. We're here for you on Newstalk 1040 AM. I'll see you in about 5-6 minutes. Okay, getting ready for this final segment here. About a minute or so. Okay, what's up? Newstalk 1040am. John D. Villarreal here for the John D. Villarreal Show. Hey, it's Monday, September 25th, about 5:35. You're driving home. You're trying to make sense of the world here in the greater Tampa Bay area, whether it's downtown Tampa Bay, Wesley Chapel, Plant City, Clearwater, St. Pete, Sarasota, Bradenton, Ruskin, Brandon, lots of different places, or live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And listen, don't get it twisted. We said it. We love you, YouTube. Absolutely. You know, we're doing our thing. We want to get big again and do all that type of stuff. Hey, you know what I mean? I'll tell you this, Paul. We're joining with Paul at Villarreal. Here's the deal. I think when we're looking at this situation, and I don't want to overstate it, but it's you almost have, like, it seems like, and this, I'm not alleging anything. I'm just talking about what it seems like. And again, things are so distorted out there in the media and social media and everything like that. But it almost feels like, it really globally, you've got one side, and there's probably more than two sides, okay, but we're just for simplicity's sake here. You've got one side that just wants to be left alone. That just wants to be left alone. I just want to be left alone. I want to be able to live my life, my family, you know, teach my kids, do whatever it is, blah, blah, blah. And you got another side that will do almost and say almost anything for power. It seems like it sometimes. I don't know, possibly. I'm not alleging anything, but it's just like people are just so tired of it. It just feels like you're being, you know, someone's pulling the, not someone, there's no conspiracy in it, but it's just like there's just such manipulation out there or something like that. I don't know how to phrase this right. I'm not getting it right. So I'm not just, I take this all with a grain of salt, but it's, and I think that, again, I'm, you know, super genius. I'm a very political expert. I can see things, you know, listen, if you've been listening to this show, you've been way ahead of the game. You've been listening to my other podcasts and stuff, way ahead of the game. It's right about so much. I'm not going to talk about that. It's not about me. It's not about patting myself on the back. What I'm saying is what I'm seeing now, and I want to see what Paul thinks, what I'm feeling, what I'm hearing out there, what I'm sensing is people are super tired of the heavy partisanship. People are super tired of the cancel culture. People are so over all of this and being bullied and muscled and whatever it is, nudged, all of these things. And oh my gosh, I got to change my avatar today and here's today's cause and everything. Like, and you know who's standing up for people and who's giving people some breathing space and stuff like that? President Trump, dude. And that's why I think, like, this dude's got momentum. He's got big time momentum, Paul. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And I mean, do you agree with me, Paul? Is that how you're seeing it? What are you seeing out there? You're right down there in Pennsylvania. You can talk about Fetterman as well. There's Senator Fetterman. There's different things. You know, you have a big time bellwether state. I'm in Florida. That used to be another bellwether state, very big, important state. And all the states are important, but there's certain states where it seems like they swing or they have heavy impact on the presidential elections. And I think, Pennsylvania is one of those states. Are you seeing those sentiments out there?
Yeah, I am seeing it. This is where I'm at. Is kind of, I'm near State College, so I'm near the university. So it's rural and red, but it also has kind of a blue oasis there in the middle of it. So you get a mix of things, but there are many, many, many Trump signs around here. A lot. I haven't seen any DeSantis signs. There are some Biden signs. A lot of Trump signs, though, particularly as you get more out into the rural areas. You mentioned Fetterman, so let's talk about him real quickly. Now, this last week, there was this whole thing. Apparently, the Senate changed their dress code to accommodate him wearing, like, the shorts and the hoodie. I mean, people are like, what are you doing? I mean, you're just changing it for him. He has become very polarizing and unpopular here in the state. Like, I think he could be a drag on the ticket, especially if he were running right now, which he's not. But just the perception of him has really hurt, I think, the Democratic Party as a whole here. Now, Bob Casey, who is running as senator this cycle, he has a solid reputation. He's well known here. His family was also in politics, so Fetterman might not hurt him that much. But I do think Casey, I saw some poll recently, and Casey's numbers were soft. They were a lot worse than what I thought they would be. As far as Biden and Trump here, it's going to be close. It's going to be close just because, again, Biden has durability here. He just has a kind of reservoir of support here. If you look at like Northeast PA went for him, which is usually a spot that would go for Trump because of his connections, his family connections there. People are getting tired of things, though. They are getting tired of things.
That's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm sensing.
They're definitely getting tired of things.
Yeah, that's what I'm sensing, and that's why you're seeing some of these different things breaking hard in different ways. We saw South Florida that was, pretty reliably Democratic, and the state being blue broke hard, for Republicans last time, and we're seeing, Pennsylvania playing out. We're seeing so many different things up for grabs. The border of Texas. And look, we're seeing with this whole stuff going on with Mayor Adams in New York City, people shouting down AOC. I'm not advocating that, but look, reality is hitting. This is serious. This is not this is a serious deal. What do you think? Let's just cut through all of it. What's your sense of it right now? Election was held tomorrow. Who's going to win? Is it Trump? Is it Biden? Where are we at with the Senate? And where are we at with the mainstream media? You've seen seismic shifts. Rupert Murdoch talking about being chairman emeritus. You see Tucker Carlson doing his own thing. Elon Musk with X. So much stuff is up for grabs. Where are we at with this situation? Do you think Trump's going to win next year? Right now?
I think if you held the election for one day, he would win. Like if you held an election here for just a day without mail-in, Trump would win. Definitely, in my opinion. But that's not how it's going to be, of course. It's going to be weeks and weeks of mail-in voting. I think if you held it right now, it'd be really close. But Trump would probably pull it out. That would be my guess.
The Republicans, I think Trump's going to pull it out if you had it right now. Do you think that the Republicans have an answer, and the RNC, that's a whole nother thing, have an answer for the mail-in voting? Do you think their operations are ready for that? What do you think about that?
I don't think they're totally ready, but I think they're more ready than they were in 2020 and 2022. Here, at least, they weren't ready at all. They just thought that they could just turn people out the day of the election, and that would work, and it didn't work. And Governor Shapiro, within the last week since we were last on air, instituted a automatic voter registry. DMV and do their business are getting automatically registered, whereas in the past you had to sign a paper saying, I want to register. Now it's becoming automatic. To me, that signals that the Democrats are concerned about here. They're concerned about Trump winning the state. That's why I think that's happening. But look, the Democrats are really, really good at getting the mail-in vote. And it's not just the local party. They use people from down in D.C. Very persistent canvassers, everything. The GOP was not on top of that before. I do think they're more ready to do it this time, but they're not going to be at the Democrats' level. It's just, you're not going to do that in one cycle. They're just not prepared for that.
But if you look at,
as long as they,
I was going to say, sorry, real quick. If you look at, and I'm not, no disrespect, DeSantis campaign, Ken Paxton, Portnoy, the congressional delegation from Florida, you're seeing a lot, the polls, Trump 10 points over Biden. Are we at a point where the typical political maneuvers or playbook or calculations, if you will, don't work anymore, don't apply anymore? That people have wised up to a lot of things where the October surprise is no longer a surprise. I mean, have we had enough? at this point? Are the stakes too high for people in terms of, I'm worried about my kids, I'm worried about their future, I'm worried about my job, I'm worried about inflation, I'm worried about, you know what I mean? Like it's funny because they try, you know, those on the left try to put Trump as the crazy guy, the extreme choice. But a lot of people might be looking at Trump as that's the only person that can return us to some kind of sanity. You know what I'm saying? That may have a chance to drain some of the swamp. Who knows? Like it's just kind of crazy. And at the same time, like, what I mean, so okay, let's go step by step. Do you think we're at a point now with the Ken Paxton thing and some of these other things and Governor Noem and Governor Kemp, are we about done with the never Trump wing of the GOP? Do you think that had and can the GOP unify? Let's answer that question first.
Overall, I think, yeah, it can. There's always going to be some never Trump people, and there's going to be the people who think we need to lose so we can get rid of MAGA from the GOP. So there will be some of those people. I think overall it will unify. I think you're starting to see that talk from the donors. I do think that's starting to happen. Look, to give you a great sign of this today, you mentioned Rupert Murdoch, chairman of Fox News and Fox Corp. He is apparently stepping down to become emeritus for the first time, and I don't know how long. Fox today showed a live Trump speech.
Oh,
They've
wow.
done that in months. They actually showed the South Carolina speech. To me, that's kind of like a tapping out to like, he's going to be the guy. We have to start covering him.
It's over.
Because for months, they weren't covering him because DeSantis looked to be their guy.
Right.
And so they wouldn't have Trump on live ever. And so now it's, I think that's kind of a signal. And going back to what you said earlier, are we kind of done with the political stunts and those things mattering? I told you about this off air. There's CNBC had this statistic, which is really incredible. 47% of Americans say achieving retirement security will take a miracle.
Wow.
Well, that reminds me of something you said on air last week or 2 weeks ago. You said, look, I feel like I have to hit a home run just so my family's going to be okay.
Right.
When you're at that level of concern, I don't care who's indicted. I don't care who did what. I don't care if Bob Menendez has gold bars. Right. I want somebody competent who's going to get things done so that me and my family are okay. So I think we are kind of hitting a point of diminishing returns on the scandalizing and all that. When I really believe that was right after the mugshot thing for Trump. He soon thereafter went to Iowa to go to the Iowa versus Iowa State football game. He was mobbed. I mean, it was like the Beatles. When that happened, I'm like, nobody cares about this stuff anymore. Nobody cares about that anymore. And look, we both know. We know people who are very influenced by, what people think, and
of course,
and is somebody respectable and all. Most people aren't. But the Democrats, in my opinion, are hoping enough people are so that Biden can pull it out. I agree with you what you said earlier, which is if somebody pulls away in this race, I think it's going to be Trump.
Right, I think it's going to break strong, and let me. It's a great comments, and let me enhance those a little bit. Yeah, I mean, not to get personal, but I have big time student loans. My wife and I and everything like that. I work hard and I'm trying to do. We have multiple income streams, do different things, whatever. She's working on her things. We have one kid. Would like to have more. And some metrics I've done amazingly well, and other metrics it's like, oh, how did I screw up my life? And now it feels like I've got to hit a home run to be able to be, have some kind of financial security, for retirement and everything like that. And I've got all kinds of degrees, and I'm a super and all these types of things. In some ways, like I've done enough for 3 or 4 or 5 lifetimes, okay, player. But on the other hand, like if I'm having a tough time, if I'm struggling, I know tons of people that are really struggling, and yet it's made out there like if you're not, and they've done all these people in the street things and interviewing young people and what's the average salary and oh, 200,000, 500,000. Like people are delusional. And you're fed this like, if you don't hit the lottery, you're a loser type of deal, right? And the ladders get pulled up, and it's getting harder and harder and harder and harder. And you almost have this feudalism society of the ultra wealthy and the poor, and the middle class is getting decimated, right? And so, like you said, on the one hand, nobody cares in that situation about, I don't follow celebrity culture and everything like that, or who did what at a nightclub, or anything, or I don't follow any of that. I don't care about any of that. I have a family. That's like everybody else. Driving home right now, Newstalk 1040, driving home at night, or so many. We talked about this in different months. So many men, young men, single men, whatever, older men, divorced with it, can't get a date, can't get women to look at it. 80% of men are basically statistically invisible, quote unquote, to women, stuff like that. I mean, just, the crazy divorce stats that we talked about before, 80% of divorces initiated by women, 90% if they have a college degree or more. And that's a whole different subject. We don't have time to get into it now. But when you feel like you cannot win, and the deck is where there's some people that can't lose, it doesn't matter what they do. And statute of limitations ran on Hunter Biden. We have these indictments, charges that don't lead to President Biden. We've got, I think I read an article out there that it may not be 20 million in bank accounts, that maybe it's $50 million that came to the Biden. Who knows, right? Still waiting for the list of the whole thing with, the island and all that. Still waiting for that list. That never came out. But man, they can get Sarah Palin's emails. Wow, they can find, they can track all kinds of different things. I mean, it's almost like Hunger Games. It's like, it's so wacky. People are like, dude, I can't win. I can have a pension. I can work for a company for 30 years and it can be taken like this. And then you have Wall Street, Silicon Valley Bank. Second, those people lose money over and above the FDIC to run. Oh, we got to bail them out. We got to bail them out. Oh, yeah, Silicon Valley. Yep, the VCs. And we got to bail them out. We got to bail out Wall Street again. Hey, I thought you guys were masters of the universe. You're so smart. You don't give us the money when you win, right? And then we have, what about Sam Bankman-Fried, FTX? How are we doing with that one? Is he out on, like, again, I'm not like, it's just like, dude, you create a political environment where people are like, maybe I do or don't have a degree. Maybe I don't have it all figured out, but I know this isn't right. When you've got people that cross the border that are staying in downtown hotels or rich or whatever that it is. And listen, a lot of these people are, struggling, like nothing against anybody. But when things are so broken on so many different levels, and people feel like that, you used to be like you paid your taxes, you worked hard, you went to school, you got a job, and it all worked out. And now nothing's working out for people. And it seems like the powers that be at different wherever don't care. Dude, that's not a good thing. And people are like, what's up? And so I do think that creates an environment where anybody and of course President Biden has to go to the UAW because, dude, you can't lose the unions too. The coalition on the Democratic side is falling apart. You've got what Biden should be, and then you've got AOC. You've got none of it makes sense when you dig down into the absolute. There's too many conflicts, if you will, on policies and stuff like that. It's a longer conversation. We're at the end of the show. We'll talk about another show. And so I think that if they're able to demonize Trump and make it about Trump and make it a choice election and all that type of stuff, then we'll see. Maybe it'll be close. But I think this could break hard for Trump because I can see the Democrats falling apart politically. The policies don't seem to be working. This stuff's not working, dude. It comes back to Margaret Thatcher's old saying, socialism is great until you run out of other people's money. And like I said, I'm over there right now. And again, Maserati of Sarasota, Alfa Romeo of Sarasota, and Sarasota Subaru. And I'm seeing, and I don't want to get specific about it, but I mean, I was talking to people, it's like you can feel a shift. You can feel a shift. It's like, it's hard to put my finger on it. And this is a community that's this county's pretty darn wealthy, honestly. I'll be straight with you. It's pretty darn wealthy, okay? And there's a lot of people retirees, so maybe they have the money. I don't know. I'm not giving him financial advice. But man, you can feel a shift. And there were cars, big time cars that were sold, and I can't get into specifics. But, and forget about this. Other places that I know that, like, some of these cars that were super hot, you if you had them, you were selling. They're sitting now. And again, I'm not trying to get doom and gloom, but listen, politics and bread and circuses and celebrity, that's all great. When people are worried about feeding themselves, feeding their kids, being able to be a parent to their kids, they're worried about security, they're worried about getting mugged in New York City or San Francisco, whatever. Like, dude, it's all breaking down. Like, the basics aren't working. At that point, people are like, wait a minute. You mean AI or EVs or whatever or offshoring is going to destroy my livelihood? Like, wait a minute. You know what? I might want to switch it up a minute here. Maybe it wasn't so bad when President Trump was in office. Maybe this isn't working. I don't know. And that's where I think people are at. It's like, I can't get married. I can't get a job. I can't get my wife to stay with me or my husband or whatever. I can't find a husband. I don't know, whatever it is. Like, this is real life. Paul, final thoughts.
Yeah, somebody I follow on Twitter, she has a couple children who are Zoomers and the younger generation. And she basically said, look, one of them came up to me this day and was just like, look, my life was better under President Trump. I had more money. Things were better. And for a lot of people, that's what it's going to come down to. It's not going to come down to all these other things. And
I was going to say super, super quick. And again, not to put anyone on blast. We know it in our own family. I talk to people in our own family, and I love our family. I love everyone in the family, and God bless you all and everything like that. So I'm not trying to put anyone on blast. I'm not going to name any names. But, I know there's some people like, oh, John said that. Dude, I'm really pretty darn successful when you look at the comfort, just let's put money aside. Money, I'm okay. But you put money aside, oh my gosh. You would, especially where I started, you would be so hard to find anybody that's been as successful across a broad range of stuff as I am to the level as that. Would you agree with that, Paul?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in our own family, it's not about patting myself on the back. In our own family, I knew people that because they didn't like Trump or they voted a certain way or they voted for Obama or they voted for Biden, they thought they were the smart crew and they were great and they were and this and rah rah and I'm on his team. And I think that even though their lives were pretty jacked up and are still jacked up, and no, I'm not trying to diss anybody. I'm like, dude, do you see your life? Do you see like you act like I don't know anything? Look at you, look at me. I'm not trying to be a punk, but it's like I think that thing of the cool club and the Democrats are the cool club and Obama and the columns and we're the cool kids and it's Apple versus Mac and that those old ads and Apple versus PC and everything like that. Like I think that was one thing. That's not going to work anymore. Because people's lives are like nobody cares, bro. Thinking who you vote for doesn't change. If here's the thing, here's the bottom line. Wrapping up. If who you vote for doesn't change your life or makes it worse, dramatically worse, what are you doing? At some point, pretty much party's over. People wake up for that. Enough people wake up from that. That's what I'm trying to say. Do you agree with that, Paul?
Yeah, I do. And I think we're getting close to that point.
That's what's up. That's why you listen to me, John D. Villarreal. That's why we're ahead of this game. I appreciate you, Paul Villarreal, for joining this show. Hey, have a great week out there. Appreciate everyone at Newstalk 1040 AM. You're listening to John D. Villarreal, a radio show here on Newstalk 1040 AM, live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Have a great week. Stay blessed. We'll see you next week.